Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, so let's talk about a possible Royal Rumble return for former SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley, because Bayley has teased a potential WWE return at the upcoming Royal Rumble pay-per-view in order to eliminate WWE on-air personality Kayla Braxton, who has also been teased for the Women's Royal Rumble match. Now, WWE's The Bump Twitter account questioned whether or not the show's host should enter. Bayley made her thoughts on that situation clear, writing, quote, "If she does, then I'm without doubt making my return just to throw her out so far that she lands on Michael Cole's dumb face." Now, you might say, well, this isn't actually a proper tease or anything like that. Well, it's not when it comes to Bayley spoiling plans by any stretch of the imagination, but of course, Bayley's been out of action since the summer where she suffered an ACL tear. Remember that story when Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and the WWE higher-ups wanted all of the full-time main roster talent to go to the Performance Center, blow off those cobwebs, do a bit of in-ring training to get ready for the full-time schedule. Doing that, she tore her ACL. The injury that took place during a Performance Center training match, it was claimed to be a freak accident. She had surgery on July 15, and during a recent Instagram Q&A, she gave an update on her return timeline. She said, quote, "So my knee is doing great, my ankle is doing great, my calf is doing great, my shin is doing great, my hip is doing great, my mind is doing great. So it's only a matter of time. I'm not going to tell you when, and I don't want all these idiots watching to know when, but I'm going to be coming back soon. Maybe no. You'll better be ready, better be ready." Now, of course, WWE recently confirmed 19 participants for the Women's Royal Rumble match later on this month. This included names on the current roster, Hall of Famers, legends, etc. Do I think Bayley could come back at the Rumble? I do. I really do. I think that, especially on the SmackDown side of things, she wasn't drafted anywhere, so she would be a free agent as far as I'm aware. I can't recall her being drafted anywhere, so she would be a free agent. I would assume if she comes back, she'll come back to SmackDown. Whether or not she'll come back as a babyface or a heel, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think her best work, even though it's crazy, isn't it? She got over in NXT being a babyface, and she came to the main roster as a babyface, but she did the best work of her career as a heel. I think she does her best work as a heel. I think the evolution of the Bayley character was very good. So if she comes back, I would hope that she would remain as a heel. The only thing I could say about her being a babyface is she could still work as a babyface if her character didn't change one bit. And I always say this about heels that are popular, because Bayley's a popular heel. If she came back and the gimmick was the same, her attitude was the same, it was just she was now facing heels instead of babyfaces, it could work. The issue is WWE has no clue how to book babyfaces. If she came back and she was a babyface, she'd be smiling, she'd be happy, she'd be waving, she'd be saying, "Oh, it's so great to be back, and I apologize for what I said to you guys in the past, the WWE Universe," all that kind of stuff. So I would prefer her to return as a heel. I'd love for her. I mean, I'm kind of booking the Rumble here, but we know Charlotte Flair's going to be in the Women's Royal Rumble match, right? That's happening. So obviously, what they're trying to do, they're trying to repeat the 2020 Men's Royal Rumble. When Brock Lesnar was the WWE Champion, he said, "I'm going to enter the Rumble. On top of that, I'm entering as number one. I'm going to eliminate everyone, and then nobody's going to face me at WrestleMania because I'm just that good." They're essentially doing the same thing when it comes to the Women's Royal Rumble this year. Now, Charlotte Flair, as of right now, isn't entering number one. That could change, though. That absolutely could change. They might do an angle where she's drawn as number one, or she decides she's going to be number one. I don't know. But we could see a similar situation. And who's the one to eliminate Charlotte Flair from the Rumble? It's a returning Bayley. It sets up Bayley versus Flair at WrestleMania, which is an interesting match. Again, I just don't know if I'm fully on board with Bayley being a babyface again, because I think she does her best work as a heel. I think that she's going to work WrestleMania this year. There is no way she's going to miss Mania. There was too much time between now and her injury in July. Now, ACL, don't get me wrong, that's a tough injury, and sometimes it can take 9 months. Sometimes it can take a year for her to return from that. I think, though, she'll definitely work Mania. It's just a case of when does she then come back, and how does she come back. I think the Rumble's a great spot for it. So even though this was more of a comedic tease of like, oh yeah, I'll come back and I'll throw Kayla Braxton at the Rumble, blah, 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 I could certainly see that. I could certainly see her returning. I think Bianca Belair might be a favourite to win it 2 years in a row and set up a Becky Lynch match at WrestleMania as well. So there's certainly lots of different people that could win it, but I could see Bayley coming back, being the surprise entrant, winning it, setting up a match against Charlotte Flair, and then Bianca Belair has to earn her Raw Women's Championship match somewhere, some other way, somehow else. So I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised, and it'd be great to have Bayley back because she's just that good. She's just that good. It's as simple as that. Speaking of next month, WWE is, of course, returning to Saudi Arabia next month, the first pay-per-view after the Crown Jewel event in October. And this time, they're bringing a big match with them to Saudi Arabia. They're bringing the Elimination Chamber, because the Elimination Chamber is reportedly returning next month. Now, over the course of the last decade or so, it's actually been a staple of February, isn't it? February pay-per-view, Elimination Chamber on the road to WrestleMania. It's been like that since 2010. It looks like that tradition is going to continue, but this time it's actually going to be taking place in Saudi Arabia. A couple of years ago, 2020, right before the pandemic, of course, the Elimination Chamber was the final pay-per-view before the pandemic hit, and everything kind of changed. But you had a situation where Super Showdown was on like a Thursday and Elimination Chamber was on a Sunday. It was just meaningless. This time they're going to merge both events and they're going to take the Chamber with them to Saudi Arabia, it looks like. The current plans call for WWE to bring back the Elimination Chamber structure for their next show in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on Saturday, February 19th. This is according to a report by Fightful Select. Now, there's no word yet on what the name of the event will be. WWE has had plans to bring the Elimination Chamber to Saudi Arabia since they ran Crown Jewel back there in November. There's also been talk of taping an episode of WWE television in Saudi Arabia in the future, but nothing has been confirmed. If anything, that would be smart considering the travel. The issue is that, and this wouldn't be the case really, I don't know, because they'd have SmackDown, they'd have to tape the SmackDown on a Friday, right? Unless they're going to do what they usually do and they're going to have a live episode of SmackDown and the next day they're going to have a live episode or the live Crown Jewel pay-per-view. I don't know. The logistics of these Saudi shows are just baffling, but they make so much money for WWE that they don't care. They charter flights to get from Saudi Arabia to whatever city they're going to the next night purely because they make so much money. Now, the last Elimination Chamber matches took place at the 2021 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Daniel Bryan won the first chamber match of the night for an immediate shot at Universal Champion Roman Reigns, and then Drew McIntyre retained his WWE Championship match in the second chamber match of the night. Now, the last women's chamber match took place at the 2020 pay-per-view, like I just mentioned, which saw Shayna Baszler get the victory for a title shot at WrestleMania 36. The 2020 event also featured a tag team chamber match, which saw The Miz and John Morrison retaining the SmackDown Tag Team Championships inside the chamber. Now, there's no word yet on if WWE is going to hold a men's and women's chamber match at Saudi Arabia. Of course, once we have some information on that, we'll talk about it here on the channel. I'm like a lot of people with these kind of gimmick pay-per-views. It's the same as Hell in a Cell for me. I'd much rather the chamber not have its own pay-per-view and it was just saved for a special storyline. It was saved for a special. It would just to add an air of mystery to it, right? We know every single year there's going to be an Elimination Chamber match in February. And there doesn't need to be. There doesn't need to be. It should be, the first couple of times they did it, they went Survivor Series, the first ever Elimination Chamber match. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. And then it was SummerSlam. There's an Elimination Chamber match. You go, that's interesting. Main event of SummerSlam, that feels big. And then they would have them at New Year's Revolution or whenever they would have them. But it made it feel special because you didn't know when it was going to happen. And it felt more storyline driven as opposed to pay-per-view driven. What do they call it now? Premium live event driven, whatever it's called. So I'm not a big fan of that, but I would be stunned if the pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia is going to be called the Elimination Chamber. It'll be called something else. So I'm not totally against that. So I'm not totally against it. In the same way that in Saudi Arabia last time, they had a Hell in a Cell match. Perfect. It doesn't need to be at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And it made sense. Edge and Seth Rollins' feud justified it. It was a pay-per-view. It made the pay-per-view feel bigger, made the match feel bigger. And it'll be the same for the Elimination Chamber. If they say that it's going to be called Super Showdown again, but the main event's going to be Elimination Chamber match, it feels just bigger. It makes the event feel bigger. It makes the match feel bigger. because it doesn't feel forced. Even though it still is forced, it's still creative, it's still booking, but it doesn't feel as forced of we're just doing the match because it's the pay-per-view. It feels like we're doing the match because the storyline and the match justifies it. And I think that's the way and the mentality that WWE should have when they book these matches. So keep an eye out for that. As to who it would be, I mean, could you even name? I mean, imagine it was the I would be stunned if it was the Universal Championship, because I don't even think they've got 6 stars they can put in that chamber. Seriously, they don't. What, Seth Rollins? Who else? Who could they put in there on SmackDown? There's barely any. And Seth Rollins isn't even on SmackDown. He's on Raw. So I just don't think they could do it. The Raw one, they absolutely could. They've got names there. You could do Brock, Bobby. You could put Rollins in there. You could put Owens in there. You could put Big E in there. There's Finn Balor. There's absolutely names you could put in there on the Monday Night Raw side of things. And I think that's what they'll do, because the SmackDown roster just doesn't justify it, frankly. But we'll talk about that closer to the time once it's announced. Speaking of SmackDown, there is an injury on SmackDown, and it rules King Xavier Woods out of the Royal Rumble match. Now, King Xavier Woods suffered a legit leg injury during last Friday's SmackDown on Fox. And now, obviously, on the show, it saw the Usos retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles once again over Woods and Kofi Kingston, this time in a street fight. Now, at one point, Woods fought Jey Uso from the apron and came up with a big tornado DDT for a pin attempt. He then took a big pop-up Samoan drop from Jimmy Uso, and the match continued for several more minutes until the finish. Now, Woods appeared on G4's Attack of the Show last night and revealed he suffered an injury during the tag team match while delivering the tornado DDT to Jey. Woods noted that he tore the plantaris muscle under his calf. His doctor expects him to be out of action from 4 to 6 weeks, which means he'll likely miss the Royal Rumble on January 29 and possibly WWE's return to Saudi Arabia on February 19, which, to be honest, sucks for him, because that's 2 really, really lucrative events. I mean, if you're just thinking just dollars and cents, the Royal Rumble's one of the top 4 pay-per-views of the year, stadium show, and then Saudi Arabia, they're arguably the most valuable shows of the year in terms of, a monetary fee to the wrestlers, to WWE, so they always get paid very well. That sucks. That really does suck for him. Now, what was he doing on those shows? Probably nothing. We talk about the chamber. If it was a SmackDown chamber, he might be in it. Last time he, of course, was in Saudi Arabia, he won the King of the Ring. So it would have been a nice return there. But to not be in the Rumble and not to be at that Saudi show sucks. That does suck for him. Fingers crossed it's not so severe, but 4 to 6 weeks, I mean, if you, the true marking, you would be like, as long as I don't miss WrestleMania, right? And this is the first proper WrestleMania in, 2 years? So his big thing will not be to not miss that, and hopefully, he will return by then. And it's the important thing is not to rush it, because you'll miss out even longer. Finally, we're going to talk about NXT UK, which we never talk about here on the channel, because why? Why? But we're going to talk about Walter finishing up with NXT UK as he moves over to the United States. Walter has finished up with the NXT UK brand. Last night's NXT UK episode on Peacock and the WWE Network featured Walter wrestling his final match for the brand. The match saw the Imperium leader defeat Nathan Frazer in around 14 minutes. The ring general finished Frazer off with a powerbomb and then stood tall in the middle of the ring as NXT UK went off the air. The match was billed as Walter's last stand and his NXT UK farewell. Now, Walter is now working full-time for the main NXT brand in the United States. Of course, he's been on a couple of the recent NXT 2.0 shows, leading Imperium. To me, it still is quite shocking. I really never thought this time would come. I really didn't. Walter was so steadfast in him saying no. When he signed his deal with WWE in 2019... it was whenever it was 2020, 2019, it was 2019, wasn't it? That he wasn't going anywhere, basically. That no, I signed because I was part of the NXT UK brand. I live in Europe. He lives in Austria. I'm going to stay in Austria. I don't care to move to the United States. I don't want to move to the United States. I like it where I am. That's part of my deal. And I think several times they've asked, and every single time he said no. In all of the interviews, he said no. But I guess, as his life, circumstances changed. And I don't think it's necessarily Walter going back on his word. I think it's just a case of his life changed. He, got separated from his wife. He quit his job. He was also working a full-time job, a day job, in addition to being a WWE superstar, which is nuts. And, I think he's now dating someone on the NXT UK roster, and things just change. And because of that, he's going to the United States, and good for him. again, I look at NXT UK, NXT 2.0 rather, and I say, I don't really see how Walter fits in there. If I was WWE, I'd just call him out to the main roster. To be honest, I don't know if he's got the look that Vince McMahon likes. I don't really know what Vince McMahon thinks of him. The only time we've seen him on the main roster a couple of times. One was Survivor Series in 2019. He was the first person to get eliminated from Team NXT. We saw him have a match with Seth Rollins on Raw just before then. That was in the UK, so we got a good pop. So I don't really know what Vince McMahon's reaction to him is, but it's a big get for WWE. It is a big get, and it's something they've wanted for a while. Do I still trust WWE to get it right with Walter? I don't know. Triple H obviously was a big fan. Shawn Michaels is a big fan. I don't know what Bruce Pritchard thinks. I don't know what Vince McMahon thinks. Who knows? He might work. He might not. Either way, he'll be in the United States full time. So it's an interesting time. I do worry about NXT UK because I look at how NXT is being run right now, and NXT UK is really more aligned with what NXT, Triple H's version of NXT was, and NXT 2.0 is not aligned with NXT UK. So I worry about it. I do worry about it because I think without Walter, what have they got? Of course, they've got Ilya Dragunov and they got some decent names there, but it's still built in the image of Triple H. And given all of the cuts and given everything that's going on, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if NXT UK is going to transform into NXT UK 2.0, but Walter certainly leaving feels like the end of an era, and maybe WWE might use that to make some changes themselves. Who knows? But look, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these WWE news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.